This is your daily dose of all things royal.
Instead of keeping rebranding themselves, why don't they actually do something that isn't for them? Let them do something for somebody else and not make so much noise about it. I think I would like to be able to respect them.
Welcome to the latest episode of The Sun's new show, Royal Exclusive. I'm Matt Wilkinson, Royal Editor, and with me today is author, editor, and journalist Ingrid Seward. Hello Ingrid, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Should we dive straight in?
Well, let's dive straight in, absolutely.
Obviously the biggest story this week is the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and they have launched their new brand that we've been waiting for several months now, hoping to hear what kind of new relaunch or redevelopment they're doing. And they are starting a website called Sussex.com. It's caused a lot of controversy, obviously, because they're using the royal crest, a royal crest that Harry and Meghan designed back in the day. Why is it causing so much controversy, and what do you think of their new relaunch?
Well, for a start, they're using Sussex.com, and the Queen particularly forbade them not to use SussexRoyal.com. And this is very similar, and there's a link from one to the other. They're using a coat of arms, which is actually Meghan's coat of arms, and even that's wrong, because apparently if you are the son of a king, you have 3 points on your coronet, but if you're the grandson, you have 5. So there is the coronet with 5 points. Tiny thing maybe, but of course people have picked up on that. I just find the whole thing incredibly hypocritical. They keep rebranding themselves, and yet there they are, they're the same. He's an environmentalist on a private plane every 5 minutes. Nobody even knows what Meghan does. If you ask people in the street, they don't know.
The interesting thing about the new website is that, as you say, they wanted to do Sussex. Well, they had Sussex Royal before they left the royal family. They had a couple of new rebrands, but this time they are using their royal crest. Are they cashing in on their royal links? Because Meghan, for instance, has criticised the royal family endlessly since Megxit. Are they using their royal links now to kind of bolster their career over in California?
Matt, they've never stopped using their royal links, ever. I mean, no one would be remotely interested in them if it wasn't for their royal links, and at least they realise that. So that's why I find it so hypocritical, because they wanted to get out of the royal family, but yet they still want to keep the bits they like. And then there's also some controversy about them using the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and saying it's a family name. Well, it's not a family name, actually. It's a title which was given to them by the Queen. Their family name is Mountbatten Windsor.
Yeah.
They don't even seem to know that. So why don't they just keep out of it and try and live on their own merits? I think they would have a lot more respect if they did that.
The website, it seems, or this relaunch, it seems that they're going to post updates about themselves. So almost like the TIG that Meghan once had, they're going to use this section, the Sussex.com, to promote their work. And Archewell seems to be slowly disappearing. Does it look like Archewell has failed? There's not much mention of Netflix. They've lost their Spotify deal, and Meghan's obviously, her podcast is now on a smaller brand called Lemonada, I think. Does it look like Archewell has failed this endeavour?
Yes, I mean, it's really hard, even if you were really well schooled in what Meghan and Harry do, it's very hard to keep up with the different people that come and go, the different names they're using, the different websites they've got. And I think that this is Lemonata sounds a really strange name. But Meghan is she's putting her brains behind that this time. That she's put her brains behind lots of other things which don't appear to have worked. The TIG is the one thing that worked for her, but that was way before she even met Harry.
They've produced this website, a really difficult time for the royal family. Obviously the King is getting cancer treatment again this week, and the Princess of Wales, has been recovering from her surgery. What do you think about the timing? About the timing of this fresh controversy that they've brought on the royal family?
Well, their timing is always really bad, but obviously they've done it now because they're going to Canada for the Invictus Games, so they really want to promote themselves. So that's why they've released it now. But they should have thought, well, Harry should have thought, well, it's not great because, Dad's just having this treatment, my sister-in-law has just had surgery, maybe we should, wait a month or two. But they don't think like that. I think they just think about them. Instead of rebranding themselves, why don't they actually do something that isn't for them? Let them do something for somebody else and not make so much noise about it. I think I would like to be able to respect them instead of being irritated by them. And I think probably a lot of people, of course they have a following that likes them, and they have a much bigger following that's just intrigued by the awfulness of them.
Yeah!
Do you think this new royal branding has breached, the terms of Megxit?
I don't think it's actually breached the terms of Megxit. I think it's walking a very thin line between breaching the terms of Megxit, because the Queen absolutely said they weren't to use that particular royal title, sussexroyal.com, to promote themselves. And she said she's not going to take away their HRH titles, but they must be put aside. At least they haven't brought those up again. I think it's really more of a niggle than a big annoyance. I don't think there's going to be a big fuss made of this, because it just brings more and more attention to them.
Do you think, obviously the Queen was adamant they couldn't use the term royal or HRH, how do you think she would feel seeing that they've maybe used a loophole or quietly sneaked in this new rebrand?
I just think she'd be very sad, because she was very, very fond of her grandson, and I think she would be sad, and sad that it's going this way, sad that it's gone this way already, and also sad that they are so unpopular.
Mm. What about the King? Do you think he cares that this has happened?
I think the King's got so much on his mind that I think the royal family, most of them have this wonderful ability to compartmentalise things. And as there's nothing he can do about Harry at this moment, I don't think he's worrying about it. If he starts to let it niggle him, it's not going to be good. He's got to say, right, well, that's what Harry's doing. And if anyone says to him, well, you must take the titles away, he's going to say, well, that's just going to make things worse. Let's just leave it as it is for the moment. I guess he's sitting on the fence.
Mm. So your book, Ingrid, is My Mother and I, and it's your latest book. You've got many books, but it talks about the relationship between Charles and his mother, late Queen Elizabeth II. And in it, you touch upon the idea that possibly Charles didn't have the most loving childhood. And Harry has spoken about how he moved to the United States to break the cycle of pain. Do you think Harry, has a point, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, Harry probably does have a point, because that's what he feels, or that's what his therapist has told him. But I think that what Harry's not realising, and Harry never quite gets the whole picture, is that Charles was brought up in the 50s. He was born in 1948. It was so different. And all aristocratic families, and many just ordinary families, they didn't see their children in the way that we do now. They didn't have public shows of affection. Children were brought up by nannies and governesses, and their parents would see them in the morning for half an hour and in the evening, and that was the norm then. So Harry is saying that his father was brought up in this way, but it was the way of the times. And Diana complained about it as well, that that Charles was really incapable of showing any public affection. Doesn't mean he was incapable of showing private affection.
So do you think Harry has a point? He talks about coming from a broken home. Does he have a point there, do you think?
Well, I think he does, but for all the people that I've spoken to that used to work at Highgrove, when Harry was a little boy, he was a really happy, cheeky, very naughty little boy who got on incredibly well with his father. And William mooted more to his mum. And yes, of course, Charles and Diana had terrible rows. And Diana used to go around, she was so frustrated with her husband that she would go around the books and just punch them with anger and scream and slam doors. We should try it, Matt, when you're really frustrated. But then you probably hurt your knuckles. But it could be wild at times. But according to one of the housekeepers there, the children didn't really see that. Because the minute there was action stations, I think they used to call it, they were whisked away by a nanny, a housekeeper, a detective. Remember, they had their PPOs there. They weren't exactly on their own.
So you talk about Diana. I can say you were friends with Princess Diana.
Yes.
You went round to, you went round to Kensington Palace for cups of tea?
Yes.
What was that like? That must have been quite a...
Well, the first time I went there, this is the longest time I spent with her. She invited me around because I'd written something that she didn't like. And Diana really could get people by the neck. And she was very clever. She was an arch manipulator because she would bring the enemy in. So I wasn't the only journalist to go there by any manner of means. And then she confronted the enemy, and then she made friends with the enemy. So she was very clever, and she thought I was really hugger-mugger with Prince Charles. And she wanted to find out, because we sort of laughed about the biscuits at Highgrove and all kinds of little things, because I'd been to Highgrove with Charles, and Diana wanted me on side, because I'd written something saying that, I think it was Paul Burrell was driving people into Kensington Palace covered by a rug in the back of the car. But it was Hasnat Khan. I didn't know that, but she didn't know I didn't know that. She was all things to all people, and she could, if she was talking to you now, Matt, I mean, you would be entranced by her, and she would be flattering you, say, oh, I like your suit, and I love your tie, and she'd be quite personal, and then 2 minutes later, she'd be out of the door and say, oh, that dreadful man, Matt, But she knew how to seduce people, if you know what I mean, into liking her.
Gotcha.
And she was brilliant at it. I really admired her. And of course, she was very beautiful. Absolutely, stunningly beautiful. Because she just looked, I always say this, she looked as if she'd been dipped in a pot of that beautiful golden honey and pulled out, because she was flawless. Absolutely flawless.
That's wonderful. So based on your time you spent with Diana, which was a long time ago now, but what would she have thought, do you think, of Prince Harry's actions over the last, it's a big topic, but what do you think over the last 4 or 5 years? Would she have been supportive of what he's been doing?
I think she'd be very proud of Harry having the guts to leave something he didn't want to be in anymore. So I think she'd be very proud of him for getting out of the royal family, because that's what she wanted. She wanted to get out of the royal family and live in America, but she couldn't do that because then she thought, well, my kids are going to be taken away from me. But I think she'd be proud of Harry doing that, but I think she'd think he'd gone about it the wrong way. I think she probably would have thought that he needed to go and discuss this with his father, discuss it with his grandmother, and not just, leap. But I think the only way Harry ever could have done it was to leap.
Because she was a maverick herself.
Oh, she was a complete maverick, yes.
I mean, Harry has criticised the royal family, and Diana also criticised the royal family. Is Harry, he's spoken about it in the past, is he maybe going to America and doing this as almost like a tribute or a legacy to Diana, do you think?
I suppose it could be. It's what his mother wanted to do and was unable to do it. And I suppose, I think that Harry probably is very happy living in California, in this gorgeous house and fantastic climate, apart from a few mudslides. And, with the woman he is obsessed and obviously very in love with. So that doesn't mean he's not happy. It just means that he doesn't really seem to have achieved very much. But I suppose he's achieved quite a lot, really, because he's there.
Do you think Diana would have liked Meghan?
No.
Why not?
I think it would be very difficult for any mother-in-law to like Meghan, because Meghan's a powerful woman and she likes her own way. Diana, powerful woman, likes her own way, and she would be, mothers and sons, they basically, no one is ever good enough for their little boy. It's the same with mothers and daughters too.
Okay. I know that in the past, like obviously Harry had other girlfriends, but you're also friends, or you know the family of Cressida Bonus. Do you think possibly Cressida might have been a better choice, or is that a harsh question?
Cressida's the most beautiful, lovely girl, but she had no desire whatsoever to live that royal life. I remember her telling me that what she found really hard, and I think Diana used to find this really hard, but it wasn't so bad in her day, that she'd be walking down the street and people with sort of phone cameras would be taking pictures of her and say, oh, look, she's got dirty hair. Oh, look, she's got her shoelaces are undone. All these personal comments, which are really quite hurtful if you're not born into it. And I think that she had no intention really of being Harry's wife. I think he would have loved it, and I think he was very keen on her. But I don't think she had any intention of ever marrying into that family.
Just going back to Harry and Meghan, so they are in Canada at the moment. They are there this week, and it's the launch for 12 months out from the Invictus Games that'll be going on in next year. This big relaunch with their new brand and their new symbol. Do you think we're ever going to get to the stage where they're going to create so much trouble for the royal family that the King or the Queen will be looking to punish them in any way, or do they need to punish them in any way to remove titles, or is there anything else that they can do to prevent Harry and Meghan causing more controversy?
I can't see King Charles wanting them to have their titles taken away. After it was its late mother who gave them the title on their marriage. There's been some dastardly royal personages in history that have had even better titles than the Sussexes. I don't think they'll be removed, and I think it would need an act of parliament to remove them. I'm not a constitutional expert, but I can't see it because it would bring so much attention to it. And I think the answer of dealing with the Sussexes, although none of us are going to do it, is to ignore them. And stop writing about them, stop criticising them, and just let them get on with it. And I just feel that it's not in Charles's nature. I would be so surprised if he did that.
Do you think they should remove the titles?
I don't know. I don't think if they didn't, if they did, actually, I think it would be Prince. Harry is a prince of the blood. You can't take that away from him. He is Prince Harry, and she would be Princess Harry. Now that would be much worse, wouldn't it? They would be Prince and Princess, which is what she's always wanted.
So from one troublesome prince to another troublesome prince, it's Prince Andrew's 64th birthday on February the 19th. The King is obviously, he needs members of his family around him. Is there anything Prince Andrew can do to repair his tarnished reputation, or is his royal life over, before retirement age?
I think that Prince Andrew's royal life is over because it's so tainted. It sticks unless he can find a way of proving his innocence. I think it's over, and I'm not sure that even if he did prove his innocence, that people would believe it. I think it's a really, really unpleasant sticker he's got on him, and I think it would be very difficult. I think Prince Andrew should go and live in Canada or just remove himself. He's far too near to it all. It must be so miserable being a prisoner, albeit in the most beautiful house, but he is a prisoner. And so why doesn't he just say, I'm going to go and live in Canada in the cabin in the woods.
Or the Middle East.
Well, the Middle East love him. Well, they used to. I don't know if they do anymore. At one time, he did have a house in the Middle East. He was given a house by one of the Arab sheikhs. But I know for a fact that he really, really, really wants to try and prove his innocence. And I don't know how he's going to do it, or even if he's got the finance to do it. So I don't think we're going to see much happening there.
You talk in a book about the King's siblings as well. I mean, has Andrew been a good brother to Charles? And is there something? Could he be an even better brother now that Charles is ill and he needs a bit of help?
I don't think that. I think Charles is a very good elder brother to Andrew. He loved Andrew. Everyone loved Andrew. He was a very endearing child. But I don't think there's much Andrew could do for. His brother is the king, and he is tainted. People are not going to accept it. So maybe Andrew could do some things behind the scenes, but Andrew, I don't know if Andrew's got the wherewithal to do that, or the will to do it, or if Charles even wants him to.
Wonderful. Well, that's, I think, the week's news. We've done Harry, we've done Meghan, we've done the controversy over in California. So thanks so much for coming, Ingrid.
A pleasure. Hope to do it again.
Sure.
You're such a fraud.